This is the Your Money Hour podcast. I am your host, Dakota Grady. Tonight I have a couple of guests. Normally I have one guest, but it's a couple that I know from Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia area. It's Tiffany and Jason Alexander. I actually met Jason about 4 years ago. So we actually attended a Dave Ramsey financial coaching training, and we met, connected, and we're still friends today. So without further ado, I want to introduce you all to Jason and Tiffany. How y'all doing it?
Good. How are you?
Hey, Dakota.
Doing fine. So thank y'all for your time and joining me tonight on the show. So we have something in common, personal finance.
Yeah.
And I met Jason again, met you in Brentwood, Tennessee about 4 years ago. So I know that we are passionate about personal finances. So how has budgeting, debt, how has all that played a part in your marriage? And tell us about who you are, where you're from, and then answer a question for me, if you could.
Oh, okay. Well, it's funny. I think it's funny we have this story we both share that we both like personal finance, and we both became debt free through the Dave Ramsey's approach. I think we have a similar story, but I can't remember. But I remember that I wasn't on like a Dave Ramsey path at all. I had this idea of getting out of debt, like student loan debt, through the government program, that 10-year one. So I proposed that to my wife, of a newly married wife, and she was like, 10 years is too long. I can't stand it. She grew up in the country where her country, what?
Really?
Yeah, your country folk people taught her, don't you owe nobody. And so she was like, I don't owe nobody. I ain't gonna hold on to this debt that long. So she just
that was all my thinking.
It was, yeah. Well, anyway, so she kind of pushed us into this avenue, and I just caught on. I like numbers. I'm in accounting, so it kind of intrigued me how to look at it a little differently, and it brought us together because we connected on a why. Because we really are focused on expanding our legacy as far as like family and expanding our resources with our family and things like that. So it was a perfect storm in the sense that we started on this journey, and then as we were towards the end of it, our family reunion was coming up, and that really gave us an extra push to go cross that line, because we wanted to be able to bless our families who couldn't make it or had limited funds, and we was like, hey, let's get free so that we can help them, right? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I definitely want to add that I was not brought up in a household where
of country folk.
First of all, my dad's from Valdosta, Georgia, so yes, that's country. But my mom is from Philly, like actual Philly, not just Pennsylvania. And so I had two different. They were from two geographic areas. They met in the military. It was more so for me. I didn't want that. I just didn't feel comfortable with it, even though my dad I had a nice pink credit card. I still, I would call him before I would use it, and I would only use it for like gas. I just didn't feel comfortable. Even when I was out of college, my parents paid most of my student loans while I was still looking for work, but I still contributed $200 from the little work that I did have to be able to contribute to it, because I had this idea I wanted to be out of debt in 5 years. So when I met him, that kind of was like, we're not keeping this debt, I didn't know.
So I was doubling your plan.
Yeah, but I think I still ended up hitting that 5-year mark once with everything. Yeah, so that was pretty awesome, how that I was able to, at least for my portion of the student loans.
And I did forget to say that, we have a clash in the sense that she has country on her side. All my people are urban.
Chicago and Oakland.
Urban Negroes. We from Chicago and from Oakland, California.
So is that the dispute, like who's from the country and from the city? They got City Slicker and who else?
Yeah, I guess you could say that, even though my mom is from the city.
I just feel like your dad is the one who instilled, nobody supposed to owe you nothing.
No.
Something like that. I just feel like your dad.
No, this was me.
Okay, all right.
So you had that instilled in you, Tiffany, like?
Yeah.
Is it something that you did when you were younger? Like, how did it become about since you wanted to be out of debt? Because, we're all bombarded with debt, credit cards, student loans,
Mm-hmm.
school. I mean, I got my first credit card when I was in college. So talk about that. Like, how did you have the mentality of not wanting to have debt?
I think I just didn't like it. I don't like owing people anything. So, so it could be like, you let me borrow your pen, like as soon as I'm done with it, you're getting it back. Or even if
She
somebody,
will hunt you down. If you're like in a conference, she's gonna hunt you down before y'all leave the conference and here's your pen.
or it might be something at my house. I have a little section where I keep things, and I'm just like, hey, your stuff is here, and if they're here, and I'm like, that's on my list. Like, I gotta give this back to them. I gotta get it out of my mental space. But yeah, I just didn't like it. I just like, and I wouldn't say that was necessarily carried into going into college, because I went to a private school, a private college, and my mom, she warned me. She was like, do not do this. It's going to be a lot of debt. And I was just like, look, I want to go. So I'm going. I'll take on the debt. But, big wake up call, when you see, $60,000+ looking at you, and you're like,
that was your number.
Yeah. So, and that was like once I graduated, it wasn't like a beginning balance. So it's kind of like, yeah, I just didn't want it.
Yeah, I was totally different. My dad instilled in me that you get that $1,000 credit card, that's your emergency fund. And I was like, all right, cool. So I use it. I kind of did use it for tires or something like that. They blew out in college or whatever, but I really didn't use it. I didn't really have any credit. I did have a little credit card debt, like less than $1,000 when we started on our debt-free journey. But yeah, I didn't really use it either. But that student loan, boy, I had 64, she had 60.
Yeah.
Y'all combined that?
Yeah.
And y'all paid it off?
What?
20, how many months was it?
It was 28 months. I was just thinking back to the 60K. So the 60K, when we got married, I think it was like 46, and his was like 67 or something 60, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 60.
But what I'm saying, when I graduated, it was about 60K. But like I said, my parents were paying on it, and then I was contributing some extra money and stuff like that. So when we got married, it was just like
a lot.
Yeah.
So was it all student loan for both of y'all?
It was student loans and a little bit of credit cards, I think, on your end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little bit of credit cards on his end.
So what did y'all study in school?
So I studied psychology as a major, and then my minor was Spanish.
My major was business, and with specialization in accounting.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Cool. So that debt. Well, I guess I'll share stuff about me. I mean, when I went to school, I got a large family. So basically we were on welfare. So I was able to get assistance, and that's how I was able to go to school. And then the school I went to in Kentucky, Berea College, basically they pay for your tuition. All you pay for is room and board.
Mm.
So, I mean, I was able to go to school then, and then just third time where I was able to get assistance again. So it's basically just having, I guess, that being disadvantaged, it allowed me to go to school without having a lot of debt, in other words.
Gotcha.
So my mentality of debt, I mean, I had a credit card, but I hated owing people stuff too. I don't like owing people money. But when I went through Dave's class, the idea of using cash, and that's been 2007, 8, I haven't had a credit card since then. So it's like I was frugal with money already, but then when I went to the class, it just propelled me forward. And now I'm doing my own thing. It's like, all right, I gotta continue to do this, not fall back to the credit card stuff. And it all becomes personal for me. I mean, personal, having a personal responsibility of not being in debt, because imagine what people could do without debt. Talk about that part. How have you all been set free from the debt? Because people say there's good debt and bad debt. Talked to a friend of mine recently. He said basically he hated debt, right? But he was saying, because he has student loan debt as well, but he was saying it's good debt and bad debt. He said the student loan debt is bad debt. I'm like, dude, how do you feel right now with that? So he still had the mentality of getting bad debt. But talk about that part about being free from debt, and how was it a burden for y'all when y'all married, when I got married?
Well, I'll say for us, what's the freedom been like? It does, honestly, Dave kind of says it on his talk show a little bit. You can wake up without, panicking of fear and all that stuff. And I think people, I mean, we've enjoyed that. We've enjoyed not having to knowing that we don't owe anyone, things like that. And one thing that we have been able to do is really what is our heart, to be generous, to be hospitable, and to give. And so that's where I find the biggest impacts for being free is to say, man, you think about it like this. If you take how much you're paying out in debt to debtors, Amex, Costco, whoever it is, and you say it's $500, once you become free, that $500 is now yours to do whatever you want with it. And that's the part that we really felt like, wow, it's been, what do we, like, months, we will come up and like, all right, so we're going to do this $500 this year. This month. And we're like, I don't know, what do you want to do?
It used to be thousands.
It used to be, yeah.
Now it's hundreds.
Yeah, because she actually, and then, so two things. One, it helped us to sit down and talk, or three things, to talk about and pray together, like, Lord, what is it that you want us to do with this? Second, it allows us to tap into some of our passions to give. And we've taken teens on trips and sponsored them in certain activities, and then three, I just lost three. Anyway, so I'll just stick with the two.
Ran away.
Huh?
Three ran away.
It was free, so I just let it go. But yeah, so those are the things that we've been able to do, because we are debt free, because we don't owe anyone. And one thing I was going to go into was having that chunk of change just available it can be kind of nerve-wracking if you don't have a plan. Mm. Don't literally prepare for it, and you don't really pray about it. It could just go, just like my third thought just went away. That's how fast that extra cash can just go away.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we did buy our first house this year.
Yes.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah, so that has been an adjustment for me. I did not want us to get a house. I was thinking let's just save up. I know it sounds unrealistic, but I was all for let's just save up and buy a house, or we don't have to move right now. At the end of the day, housing is always going to be an expense. But the Lord put on his heart to get us to move. And lo and behold, maybe a week or two after we moved, that's when COVID just hit the fan.
It wasn't a week. It was a day. It was a day or two.
No, it was
it was a day or two.
We had closed on Friday. Our anniversary was on the following
Saturday,
Tuesday or something like that. And
and
then we didn't even go off our anniversary because we were like, nah, we just gonna stay in with this COVID.
Been in ever since.
Yeah, so I think it's important with anything with your finances. You may feel discomfort about where God's telling you to go, but you have to trust him with your finances. And that's what I'm having to do now. Even though we have a mortgage now, it's something where we may or may not pay it off. And it's really because we may not be in this house forever, you know what I mean? So why am I going to exert all this money into paying it off, possibly when I could be possibly moving somewhere else? So right now I'm just taking it as a housing expense. I just kind of rewired it in my head that it's a different way of looking at rent. And that's how I'm kind of dealing with it right now. But we do want to eventually get into rental properties and stuff like that. So that's why it's not necessarily important for us right now to necessarily pay it off, because we're going to try to.
Well, also it's not as urgent to pay it off, because we went into the mindset, and this is a benefit to the process we went through. It changes your mindset. Dave says all the time, it's not about the dollars and cents and math. It's about behavior. And that behavior comes from, you changing your mindset. So our mindset is totally different now. Our mindset is, okay, how can we make our money work, right? And so when we go into decisions like that, where we saved up and got a down payment, we said, well, I definitely was like, we just don't want to just get a mortgage and have that big replace rent with a mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
We actually said, you know what, let's find a place where we can rent out the basement. So now it's no longer just an expense. There's a little bit of income coming in, some cash coming into our pockets.
Mm-hmm.
So, and with your friend who said, you know, there's good and bad debt, like those are the opportunities where it's like that debt is being leveraged to put money into your pocket. If it's not covering our whole mortgage, but it's helping us.
A third of it is
so
covered, and that's going to help fuel our business for real estate when we get into that. And so right now we've had to use a good bit of it to do some repairs around.
Yeah, bought an older home.
1969 home. So, but you know, once those repairs out the way, and I think we're kind of almost there. Yeah. That is going to generate income, month by month.
Yeah, it's fueling back. It's replenishing our emergency fund, and it's going to build up capital so that we can go buy something that's more lucrative, or totally cash. Probably do another loan, but we'll see.
So
yeah, go ahead.
It sounds like debt free. Your options.
It did. It did.
And debt free in the sense like, there's some debts you can get rid of in a sense. Like we could sell this house right now and just be completely debt free again. But the debt free in terms of consumer and student loan, car, even car, I guess you could pay it off, but it's depreciating in value. So, student loans and consumer debt, like credit cards, like that right there, that's you. That is attached to your name. You can't get rid of it because it's based off of your behavior, what you decided to do. But a house, I could put on the market tomorrow and be done.
Yeah, right. You can't pass it off on no one else.
Yeah.
Right, gotcha.
I mean, hoping that you, of course, sell it for more than your mortgages.
So, Tiffany, talk about how you were able to, I guess, leave your job and now work, right? Talk about that, please.
Yeah, so it's been really good. About 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? Maybe 3.
I don't know, man.
Oh my gosh, I lost count. It's 2 to 3 years ago. I stepped away from corporate. I just really, I just was feeling lost, to be honest. Like, I just felt like, God, this is not where I think you really want me to be. And I just wasn't happy. So I was like, let me just step away and just kind of reconfigure where I want to be in life. And so that journey had some highs and lows, depression included. And quite frankly, this year, in spite of, everything that's going on, like this has been my breakthrough year where I've become more confident. I've become more myself again. I did go through therapy for the past year just to kind of be able to hash out those feelings. And a lot of it was just people pleasing, wanting to people please, having certain expectations of myself that either others don't have of me or that I have for myself, but isn't necessarily healthy for me. So it was worth being able to get out of debt so that we could make that decision. And there's still some days where I'm like, man, I just walked away from, $60K. By now I could have maybe making $80K because I was getting merit increases every year. And I just, sometimes money is not worth it sometimes. And I can truly say, like, although I feel like there's some times where I'm like, man, we could have got some more properties and stuff like that. And I just, I still think back to where I am, and I'm in a better place. And that's going to be more beneficial for me and him as a family, and to be able to now enter into this new phase where we want to get into real estate and we want to continue to give back to our community. So it's been a blessing.
So during this time, have you been able to start businesses, or you just redefine who you are, basically? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I did some like beauty consulting for almost a year, and then just more recently, this is actually something I said I was going to do 2 or 3 years ago when I stepped away from corporate. I actually babysit. Jason provides most of our mostly all of our income, and I'm fine with that. He's the breadwinner, and I contribute to our house, and I babysit a 3-year-old. I've been doing that for the past few months, and it's been a joy because that's what I said I wanted to do when I left 3 years ago, but I never found the right opportunity. So I wanted something that was like close by. I wanted only a few hours out of, for a few days out of the week. And I got exactly that. I got 2 hours 3 times out of the week, and I could walk to work. It's literally the next street over. And, you know, they're very flexible and stuff like that. So I've been able to do that, and just, you know, now I'm thinking about, okay, maybe I want to get into event planning now. So it's kind of allowed me the freedom to explore. And if something doesn't feel right or I don't want to do anymore, I just drop it. You know, he's still providing. But, you know, I do know that eventually more will come out of it. I'm just being patient and allowing myself to grow as I, just allow myself to grow.
Cool. So one last topic.
Okay.
Budgeting in the marriage. I call it a money plan because it's basically a money plan for your money, right? So how important is budgeting in a marriage? We talked about debt. For those who say it's good debt, bad debt, that's not true. All debt is bad. You hear that, right? Because you have options. If you got debt, the options go away. You may say, well, I'm leveraging this here. No, debt is bad. My friends are here to test that. They paid off, how much y'all pay off in debt?
112.
There you go.
1,000.
There you go. So talk about the budget part.
The budget part is very interesting. We have grown in that area, definitely. We definitely had the money fights. Still are there, but
he wasn't asking about money fights. He was asking.
The reality is that it's there. The reality is we sometimes have our own differences of where we think money should go, and we have to, you know, come to an agreement or compromise. Or sometimes I just, you know, say, you know what, go ahead, you can have it, it's fine. But you know, basically, what we do is before the month begins. Our months are kind of off a little bit, but basically before our next 2 paychecks, because our paychecks come every 2 weeks, we sit down and we talk about like what we feel like, we ask God to tell us, you know, where he wants our money to go. And we already have like different categories that we use. We use an app called Every Dollar app. And the categories are already there. We pretty much know what we're going to spend in each category. But for instance, times like holidays or different type of celebrations, we end up, of course, upping that amount to be able to cover for certain things. So we move things around here and there, but we basically get our own spending money on top of that, and we don't dictate to each other what we do with our own spending money, but the rest of the money, most of the money, is agreed upon with us. Because I take care of the home, I pretty much know how much we need for groceries and home supplies and things of that sort. So everything else is kind of, honestly, everything is pretty fixed.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was going to say, like, as we continue to go through the money planning, like you described, Dakota, we talk it out. We had a plan. You know, we have a prayer session, and we go and try to figure out what the vision is that God has given us for that month. But it's really that, do you have your core, right? Your shelter, food, shelter, clothing, transportation, those kinds of core items. Then you have kind of like your lifestyle items. But after that, we still have this chunk of money that we have. And that's the part we was talking about earlier. That's the part where we're just trusting what God wants us to do for that month. But for the most part, probably 80 to 90% of our budget is the same from last month. But we worked at it. We kind of controlled and evaluated, hey, why is AT&T charging us this? Why is this bill this way? Why is this, and so we kind of, ring it in a little bit so that we can understand what's going on. So really that's how we operate. We, sometimes that little 10% can take us a long time to talk through and figure out what it is. Sometimes it's quicker, but overall we always know, like, okay, our core is taken care of.
Yeah.
And so even though we may kick the can on that last 10 or 20% for another week or so, we know about 90% of what we're going to be doing.
Yeah. Awesome. So before we wrap up real quick, give us one thing that you all think married couples should do. We talk about budgeting and debt, but what's one thing you've learned that can help a couple who may just got married?
Keep people out your business.
Mm.
Keep people out your finances. We learned early on because of our debt-free journey, like, no.
Yeah.
For instance, Christmas time, we don't always give gifts, and that includes ourselves. We'll decide right before, like we'll decide like in November, like, okay, do we want to put aside money for anybody? This year we decided to do siblings, but that doesn't include parents, you know what I mean? And that sometimes is hard because it's like we really just do what we feel is on our heart. And we don't want to ever give in to other people's expectations of us unless we feel like that's something that God's told us to do. This year, we will not be giving gifts to ourselves. We don't care. That doesn't really speak to us as much as it does quality time and being able to connect with one another. But, just exercising that no muscle is going to get you very far, and, making sure those boundaries are established. So that you guys maintain your unit that God has put together. Because if you allow all these other outside influences and people to come in, then you're really not operating as one, and you're always going to be swayed to and from. And then next thing you know, you're fussing at each other about what so and so said versus you guys, stating together, this is what we're going to do, whether you like it or not.
Wow.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that was great.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great. I share vision. That's.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm a little more wordy. But
no,
yeah.
but that's it. But that's what I was going to say too. Just it's a shared vision that you take the time to, no matter how rough it is, to talk it out. You have an objective to get that shared vision from your Lord and Savior, right? So you get that vision, and then you guys work together to execute it.
That's good stuff right there. Well, I want to say thank y'all for joining me, Jason and Tiffany. We'll hopefully get together in the future. But thank y'all for joining me on the Your Money Hour podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Dakota.
You're welcome.